out and do some field research with some users. I knew I was going to be keeping track of like 20 things at once, so I decided to take some pictures to keep track of things as I was taking notes later, jog my memory. As I was reviewing my data, something interesting happened. The rest of my data became way less useful. I started relying on the pictures. For example, this one user, I noticed in almost every photo she looked frustrated, confused, generally unhappy. This was in contrast to the very positive verbal feedback she gave me. Lest we think it was just her who was frustrated, the evidence was all over the place. You could even see 3 people can't figure this damn app out. So, it confirmed my suspicions. The app not only did not make Plant ID easier, it didn't actually empower users. It in fact failed all of its important product goals. Yay? So, in good news, I now had the data I needed to convince the team that the app needed some serious retooling. And I had tried analytics, I had tried usability evaluations, everything in between. But it was the photographs that really started to convince people. And I'm not sure why, but I'm pretty sure it's because photographs can tell a better story than I ever could. This is why you should include photography in your customer research arsenal. Photographs are rich visual data sources and communication tools all wrapped up into one convenient package. It's like a persona that just writes itself. As it turns out, in the age of smartphones, you all can do quick and dirty customer research just like this with no effort whatsoever. Out in the world, people have all sorts of, damn it. The main thing is that customers lie. Customers lie. So, photographs help you capture how people actually are interacting with the world. Unlike, say, airbrushing, you can't actually see reality. So, I want you to take pictures of people out doing things. Take pictures while you're living your life, getting coffee, taking a walk. These things will tell you important information. All you need is your smartphone, and you need to develop an eye for interesting situations relevant to your customers and your product. Just go out and see this information that you're missing. For example, this set of 3 users ended up having remarkably different collaboration behavior depending on what task they were completing. I had no idea till I reviewed my photos. This had serious design implications for me. Another example from another project. People were taking pictures of the exact same thing from a similar angle, and this was a project about photographic behavior in users, so really relevant research I didn't notice until after I was done. So, take pictures of people eating, what their body language is, their expressions. This tells you a lot of incredibly valuable information that might help you design products that really fit into their lives. And then, the really cool thing is you can take those photographs and turn them into artifacts to share with your team. After all, it doesn't take a lot to understand a picture. You just need a little explanation. Your team will be much more likely to empathize with your customer if they can actually see how they experience the world. As it turns out, it's a lot easier to get people to look at pictures than review notes as well. So your iterations end up being faster and your team ends up being much more engaged. So tell a story with your photos. Use it to capture some of the complexity out there in the world and communicate it to your team. Photographs are universal. You don't even need to read. So I'm giving you all homework. I want everyone to pick up their phone and start doing research today. I want you to take at least one picture during this conference and tweet it at me. I guarantee, regardless of the domain, product, or industry, you're going to find value in this exercise. I look forward to seeing all these awesome pictures. Tweet them to me at Kierstead when we can all learn from each other. Do us all a favor and just take the damn picture. Thanks.
Thank you, Megan. Continuing with the theme of customer research. Next up, we have Charlie Scheinost, engineering manager at Adobe, who caught our attention with the story of how his team is getting closer to customers. Please welcome Charlie.
We skipped a slide. I got extra time. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, can we just start that again?
Gotta go really quick.
All right.
I'm going to talk to you a little bit about in-product chat and how we use that to get closer with our users. One of the biggest problems we have developing products is getting real feedback from users, knowing what they're actually thinking, what they actually want, and then actually translating that to developers. So we tried to do that with chat, and one of the side benefits of that is getting our engineers talking directly with the users. And so, why is it hard to get good feedback from users? Well, like people have said earlier, customers lie. They want to be polite. So, and there are also a lot of barriers to getting feedback. You either got to get them to come to your office, or you got to get them to sign into a form. So no barriers. That's one of the keys. Removing barriers, making it easy for users to give you feedback in context at the time they're using your service. Now, another thing that we found very important is before we built any software, we were talking to our users with the prototype. These were potential users. But how do we talk to our users once they're actually using our software? And we found that chat allowed us to keep talking to our users from day one of launch. Now, this isn't just about removing barriers, it's about building trust with your users. So you want to let your users know that you're there because you want to be there, not because you have to be there. You got to let them know that you're there to have them help you, and most importantly, you got to follow through. So why did we use chat? I think like a lot of people, we had a great prototype, we got great feedback on it, but we weren't sure what we really needed to do to get users to start using it on a daily basis. Now, by removing these barriers and building the community around our service, we're able to start doing that. And we started doing it early on when we had very few users. That allowed our early users to become almost, in a sense, a part of our development team. They got to be there while the service grew. They got to see the fruits of their feedback come in as features. Now, that was pretty easy when we only had a few users, and when you start going from a couple hundred daily users to a few thousand daily users, you can't talk to them all day. You can't have your engineers online all the time. So we got to start looking at ways to scale back. My slides are out of order, my fault. So I also want to say, don't be scared. We were very scared at first that we were going to have in-product chat and my engineers were going to waste their time talking to users all day. We were scared we wouldn't learn anything. We were scared people would abuse us. Now, I wasn't actually prepared for how little abuse we saw. I think there was only one incident that really stands out where we had a user coming on and giving us a real hard time. My engineer turned it around eventually by telling the user that he wasn't a robot and what he had for lunch that day. And that user went on to give us good feedback. Now that we're at a much larger service, we've scaled back. And we want to move to more of an intercept model where we provide chat abilities to our users if they performed a specific set of steps. If they met certain criteria, we allow them to chat with us. Now, what I'm talking about is chat for customer engagement, not product support. I'm sure chat is great for that, but that's not what I'm talking about. This is really creating a direct line of communication between your product team and your users. Now, what better group to help you make pivots in your product than users who are already investing in your product and using it? A lot of times after a user would ask me a question about the software, I would turn around and ask them a question, then follow up with them later. We also wanted to make sure that we could visualize this data, so we would put our chat transcripts into a word cloud, and here you see there's a lot of upload errors. We weren't seeing this in our analytics, so we went back and fixed our analytics, and eventually we saw things change from errors to thanks and great. So we were actually able to see, both from our analytics and from visualizing our chat transcripts, that the improvements we were making in the software were translating directly into users' happiness. We also saw impact out in the community. Users started tweeting. We talked to an engineer in the team today. It was a great experience. It also gave the team a great feeling when they would see users tweet about it or just come on chat to tell us that we're making their lives better. Now, this isn't just about removing barriers and feeling good. You want to validate that. So one of the things we would do is look at our word clouds, turn that into a workflow funnel, and make sure that as we improve the funnel, the word clouds would change. So as you saw earlier, errors went away. Another important thing here, I think, was to have the whole team engaged. Your product manager, your developers, your engineer, your QE, and even some program managers every once in a while. It forced everybody on the team to understand the user and the software better. So I guess what's next is I would go out and do this. You can go integrate a service for next to nothing and be chatting with your users in a couple of hours. Pretty confident that once you start doing this, you won't want to write code without it. So thank you. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Charlie. What do startups in cities have in common? The short answer, a lot. Urban design expert Mariela Alfonzo is here to tell us more. Please welcome Mariela.
This is my hometown, Kierstead, Miami, where my most exhilarating memory is playing an ersatz game of Frogger as I tightrope down Pendleton sidewalks, dodging cars as I cross strip mall line highways, all to get to a chicken teriyaki sub. It's also a failed product. Back then, I wasn't a researcher, entrepreneur, or lead startup evangelist. I was a consumer of place, an unsatisfied consumer of place. But my Rochester story isn't unique, and this is why. Cities are zombies of the startup kind. They're operating but not thriving. They're in a state of limbo, not dead, yet not exactly alive. Unfortunately, there's an epidemic of these soulless, placeless cities. Cities have spent so much damn time in the building. Forget about not understanding the customer problem. They totally misunderstood who their customers were. They built cities for cars, not people, and failed to harness the power of placemaking, to enrich our lives. For cities, getting out of the building means sending out a notice for public approval. Best case scenario, an angry mob shows up protesting the project. Worst case, no one shows up. And the doomed to fail project, this gets approved. But the fallout is more than just primary colored storage units among residential neighborhoods. Urban highways, desolate public spaces, no-name suburbs, elite enclaves, pedestrian no-man lands don't make for lovable places. They make us fat, unhappy, isolate us, harm the environment, and cost us money. But the thing is, even when cities do try to engage the public, it's typically way after sending out a request for proposals from experts, which in and of itself often presupposes a solution. This trickle-down placemaking process is broken, but it doesn't have to be this way. This is the High Line in New York City. It's widely successful, with over 5 million visitors a year. It's a grassroots project with customer development at the very heart of it, a community-led design competition. Cities need to move from an entrenched, this is how we do it, build it and they will come, we know best mentality, to an evidence-based framework. They need to recognize that while people may not be able to design their own solutions, they are the experts when it comes to their pain points. They need to listen to what people and places are telling them. Cities need to be more like lean startups. Cities need to get the heck out of the building. Cities need to adopt lean placemaking. This is where my startup can help. State of Place is more than just a data analytics platform. We enable cities to get out of the building and into the block. Our app collects data on over 280 built environment features, like street trees, parks, sidewalks, you name it, we measure, and aggregates that into the State of Place Index, which quantifies what people love about cities, diagnoses communities' physical needs, categorizing them into 10 urban design dimensions, and predicts economic performance. But the key is, we train the community to collect this data. State of Place not only factors in a city's goals, capacity, and budget, but also community or customer input. Cities get a built-in customer development platform that produces evidence-based hypotheses about problems communities care about. For example, State of Place allows cities to generate falsifiable problem hypotheses like 30 out of 50 residents believe there's not enough green spaces within close walking distance to their homes. Cities would then conduct customer interviews to validate that hypothesis, run State of Place analytics to identify potential minimum viable projects, and then select one that addresses the problem from a community and physical standpoint and is poised to maximize return on investment, like transforming parking spaces into a pop-up pocket park. Cities would then use this MVP to test yet another falsifiable hypothesis, this time about product market fit. The pop-up pocket park will attract at least 150 residents over the weekend. If this benchmark isn't met, cities would conduct further customer interviews to understand why. Only 50 people visited the pop-up pocket park because it was hard to find. The real problem wasn't a perceived lack of green space, it was rather lack of knowledge of and difficulty accessing existing green spaces. Finally, cities would use State of Place to implement the pivot and identify the real solution. create better signage for, and provide safer pedestrian access routes to existing green spaces, not only easily saving significant amounts of money, but also truly solving the problem. So again, cities need to be more like clean startups. The promise is the same. If you build something somebody actually wants or needs, they will come. If you get out of the building, you'll know what that want or need is. State of Place is simply adopting lean startup methods for use in lean placemaking to help deliver places people love. The parallels are endless. Lean startup can change everything. Let's work together to make that happen for cities or otherwise. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mariela. We want to continue here with the theme of applying lean startup ideas in places other than just building your product. And one of the questions that we get a lot is, how do we apply lean startup in marketing? So we thought, who better to have come talk about that idea than Laura, who is the author of Lean Branding. Please welcome her.
Branding. Why does it sound like something that you can't touch? Can't you touch how cold your pizza is when some brand has decided to suck for the night? Well, why do we keep on trying to make someone else do our brands for us? When a brand is just the story that consumers recall when they think about you. To say that we can participate in building our own brand stories is to say that we simply cannot tell them. But we are wired to do that, and that's exactly why I'm standing here today. In 2012, I started working with 97 very early stage tech startups that had all sorts of chaotic problems. They did not have funding, they didn't have context, no resources. But then that's when I learned one thing, that branding can be hacked. And I set out myself to build a lean method that could help any startup hack branding. What I'm here to share tonight are 4 hacks that we learned along the way. So for our first hack, ethnography, we've all been told that focus groups are some sort of oracle, that they're supposed to tell you the truth, but how useful is it really to pack a group of people in a